Okay, good evening, friends. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Abayim. We're continuing in Daf Hashavua, we're learning Maseches Nedarim, Daf Daled Amud Aleph, and we're trying to see some of the main runs inside. Just to give you a heads up, tonight's runs, if you see my shaded in area, it's from here, from Divrei Hamaskal Kagoin until here. So we're going to be doing some of the runs inside. And the Gemara earlier said that we compare Nedarim to Naziros. That just like Nedarim, if you delay fulfilling your Nedar, you're Oivar Bal Ta'acher. So too, if you delay fulfilling Naziros, you're Oivar Bal Ta'acher. And the Gemara asks, what do you mean if you delay fulfilling Naziros? If you say I'm a Nazir, then you're a Nazir right away. So whether you observe it or not, you're not delaying anything. You might be violating. You see, when you say I'm going to bring a carbon, if you delay bringing it, you're delaying it. If you say I'm a Nazir, then you're a Nazir. If you're Matame or you drink wine, you're not delaying it, you're violating it. How do you have Bal Ta'acher by Naziros? So Rav Acha Bar Yaakov Amar Kagoin Dinadar V'hu B'Beis HaKvaros. Somebody made a neder and they're in a Beis HaKvaros. So if they made a neder and they're in a Beis HaKvaros, he has to leave the Beis HaKvaros right away, be Matar himself, and then be Makabel the Naziros. So let's see, he says, I like Beis HaKvaros. He says, well, let me go visiting the Kvarim and see who's buried there. I know some people that like to hang out in the Beis HaKvaros. So if he delays, if he hangs out of there, so then he's violating Baal Ta'acher. The Ran says, Shetzarach Latzis Miyadi has to leave immediately the Kabbalah of Naziros and be Makabel Naziros. B'chilei Nafik, when he doesn't leave, Kamle B'Baal Ta'acher, he's violating Baal Ta'acher. Says the Gemara, this is very good according to the opinion that the Naziros is not chal right away. There's Machlokas Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish in the Masechta Nazir, and namely, if somebody makes the Naziros when they're in a Beis HaKvaros, so the halacha is that the time that he's in the Beis HaKvaros is not counted toward the Naziros, and he doesn't have to bring a carbon for being in the Beis HaKvaros, which means that so it's a machlokes. What does that mean? That the time that he's in the Beis HaKvaros doesn't count. According to Rabbi Yochanan, this means that the Nazir doesn't have to bring the carbon yet, but he still has to observe the halachos. So basically, the Nazir says chal right away. He can't drink wine. He can't cut his hair, and if he violates drinking wine, cutting his hair, he's chayiv malchus. According to Reish Lakish, no, the Nazirus is not chal. So when he leaves, he has to be makabel the Nazirus proactively, and then it takes effect. So what the Gemara is saying is, this is all good according to the opinion that the Nazirus is not chal. This is Reish Lakish. So the Nazirus is not chal. So when he leaves, he has to be makabel the Nazirus. And if he delays being makabel the Naziros, he's over Baal Ta'acher. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, that the Naziros is chal right away, and he's not allowed to be matame, and he's not allowed to drink wine. He's not allowed to cut his hair. In other words, he's not allowed to cut his hair. He's not allowed to drink wine. And when he leaves, that's when he starts observing not being matame. But the Naziros is chal by itself. So then there's no Baal Ta'acher, it was already chal. Meaning there's a machlokes Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish, that when a person is makabel a Naziros when he's in the Beis HaKvaros, is the pshat that it's chal right away, it's just he doesn't have to observe it fully until he leaves. In that case, there's no Baal Ta'acher, because it was chal immediately. But if the pshat is that it is not chal yet, it's not chal until he comes out and accepts it upon himself, so then there is Baal Ta'acher. So hanich laman da'amar loy chayle ani naziros me'alter. This is fine and good according to the man da'amar that the naziros is not chal. Laman da'amar me'alter chayle alei mi'ika Baal Ta'acher. Is there Baal Ta'acher? The Ran says Hanichalaman de Amar Leichali Nazirus Alei Alter. It's a Machlokes Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish, Paragimel de Nazir, that according to Rabbi Yochanan, I'achil v'shasi yayin v'beis hakvaros. If he eats and drinks wine in the beis hakvaros, lucky, he gets malchus. The chayli alei nazirus miyad. The nazirus is chal right away. So then there's no bal ta'achar. But ul reish lakish loy chayli alei nazirus miyad. The nazirus is not chal right away. Ul chinofik mi beis hakvaros. When he leaves, tzarach lachzor lekabel. He has to be mekabel the nazirus again. So according to reish lakish, it's good. According to Rabbi Yochanan, it's no good. So, va'oid, furthermore, the Gemara asks, aside from the fact that it's not good according to the opinion, namely of Rabbi Yochanan, that it's chal me'alter, everybody agrees it's chal me'alter. Ha'amar mar bar Ravashi said, chayle nazirus ale me'alter. The nazirus is chal right away. And you know what Rabbi Yochanan should disagree about? What they argue about is inyan malchus pleading. They only argue whether you're chayiv malchus. So everyone agrees the nazirus is chal right away, even Reish Lakish. The question is, do you get malchus for being metame? Reish Lakish agrees it's chal right away. He just says that you're not going to be chayiv for drinking wine and cutting his hair until he leaves the beis hakvaros. Says the Ran, chayli alei nazirus me'alter, v'lo tzarach kabbalah. You won't need another kabbalah. Ki nafik when you go out. Well, inyan malchus hu depligi. They argue regarding lashes. Ilak yalachilas anavim ba'oida beis hakvaros. Do you get malchus for eating grapes when you're in the beis hakvaros? V'kivan dechal alei nazirus. Since the nazirus is chal, v'lo tzarach kabbalah, you don't need a kabbalah. My bal ta'achar ika. What is the bal ta'achar? So the Gemara answers, afilu hachi. Kam lebe bal ta'achar. Nevertheless, you are violating bal ta'achar. Why? Mishum dekam ma'achar nazirus detara. Because he's delaying the nazirus of purity. What does that mean? He's delaying the nazirus of purity. There are really two elements of nazirus. One element of nazirus is being a nazir, and one element of nazirus is observing a nazir in a state of tahara. So if he's going to stick around in the beis hakvaros, even though the nazirus is chal, but he cannot observe the nazirus of tahara, that's delaying the ikar nazirus. He'll be over bal ta'achar. The Ran says to come achar le-nazirus to tahara, misham hachi kam le bal ta'achar. Ravashi said, well, if that's the case, they don't have to come up with such a crazy case where he accepted an nazirus in a beis hakvaros. Since this is true, that you'll be over bal ta'achar, even when the nazirus is chal, if you don't start observing the nazirus b'tahara immediately, nazir shatime yatzim mezid, a nazir that's matame himself intentionally. Let's say you have a regular nazir, and he decides to matar himself intentionally. Over misham bal ta'achar the nazirus tahara. He is over bal ta'achar of nazirus of purity, meaning a regular, ordinary nazir who took upon himself nazirus, and he started the nazirus, and then he was matami himself intentionally, even though he's not allowed to, and if he does, he's over loy tetame, he's also over on bal ta'achar. The Ran says, hovakach chalomer kivan the amrit. Since you said, the afagav the chal alei nazirus, even though nazirus is chal on him, but since he's not observing it b'tahara, he's over bal ta'achar, kivan the loy chayil alei b'tahara. Since it's not chal on him in purity. Ika bal ta'achar, there's bal ta'achar. Af nazir tahar. So too, a nazir who's tahar, shatir atzmai b'mezid, who's matar himself b'mezid, over b'bal ta'achar, v'laki. Hogamakas. The afagav the kvar azare rachmana atuma betray lavi, even though the Torah already warned him on tuma in two places. Kidachsiv lo yitame, uchsiv nami al kol nafshes meis lo yavai. Va'amar nami, v'hayamim harishanim yiplu. So a few things. It says lo yitame. It says al kol nafshes meis lo yavai. And it says v'hayamim harishanim yiplu, lav lamemra shalo yehei olav oynesh acher. It's not to say that he's not over another oynesh. Ela milka nami lakim misham bal ta'achar. He'll be over a bal ta'achar as well. Okay. Then the Gemara says, Rav Acha braid Rav Ika. Amar Rav Acha, the son of Rav Ika, says, over b'bal ta'achar tiglachtoi. he's going to violate Bal Ta'acher of shaving. Meaning, if he delays, let's say, if he delays this process, normally, let's say when a Nazir finishes, he has to bring karbanos, and he has to shave his head, and he has to take his hair and burn it. So if he, let's say, delays shaving, so he's going to violate Bal Ta'acher. This would be basically to any Nazir who delays shaving. The Ran says, the Ran doesn't comment, but the Gemara continues, this is not only according to the opinion that shaving is ma'akev. The Ran says, Pluktihi de Rabbi Lezer Rabbanan, it's Machlekes Rabbi Lezer Rabbanan in the Gemara Nazir. De Rabbi Lezer, Hadechsiv, Va'achar Yishtah Nazir Yayin. According to Rabbi Lezer, that which it says, and afterwards a Nazir will drink wine, Hainu Achar Kol Hamasin Kulam, that's after all of his activities. Dahainu Tiglachas, V'atzaz Damim, it's shaving and sprinkling the blood. So not only according to the Amr that it's Teglachas is ma'akiv, but ul Rabbanan miyad shehivi karbanos of mutabayano. According to Rabbanan, as soon as he brings his karbanos, he could drink wine, and the Teglachas is not ma'akiv. But still, mitzvahs giluach miyaloi mekayim. If he delays the shaving, he's not mekayim the mitzvah of giluach, and if he delays it, he's over Bal Ta'acher. Mar Zutra brei de Rav Mari Amar, over b'Bal Ta'acher karbanosov. If, let's say, he delays bringing the karbanos, he's over on Bal Ta'acher of the karbanos. So this would be even a regular Nazir. Says around Bal Ta'acher karbanosov, lahach ukimta eino over Bal Ta'acher lachar gimor regam. According to this opinion, delaying karbanos, you're only over Bal Ta'acher after 3 regalim. Fine. Frek the Gemara. Bottom line is, where do we learn out Bal Ta'acher by a Nazir? We learn it out from a hekesh between Nedarim and Naziros. It says by Nedarim that there's Bal Ta'acher, and we'll apply it to Naziros. Says Gemara min hacha nafgalei. Do we learn it out from here, from the hekesh? Me hasam nafgalei. We learn it out from there. It says ki darosh yidrushenu. Hashem will seek it out. It says, Ki sidar nedel Hashem lekecha, lo yisach l'shalmoi, ki darosh sidrushenu. That ki darosh sidrushenu applies to elu chatois v'ashamois. Then whenever there's a chiyuv to bring a chatas or an asham, if you delay it, you're over Bal Ta'acher. So why do I need a hekesh? Why can't I learn it from this drasha of ki darosh yidrashenu? That whenever there's a chiyuv oila or chatas, you need to bring without delay. The Ran says, Elu chatois v'ashamois, for karbanos nazir, harahin b'chlal, obligatory chatois v'ashamois. Says the Gemara, Mahu detema, I would have thought, chidashu shechid Torah b'nazir. Since the Torah innovated a new halacha by Nazir, maybe the laws of Bal Ta'acher don't apply to the karbanos of Naziros. What exactly is the chiddush by Nazir? My chiddush, what is the chiddush? If you say that you cannot be matfis, you can't grab the obligation of bringing a karban chatos of a Nazir when you make a neder. In other words, I can't say, I make a neder, then I'm going to bring the karban chatos of a Nazir. What do you mean? But you're not a Nazir. You can't make a neder like that. You can make a neder that you can bring a karban oila or a shlamim, but you can't say, I make a neder, I'm bringing the karban chatos of a Nazir. So, why not? It's a chiddush. The Torah, there's a chiddush by Nazir that you can't obligate yourself in the karban chatos of a Nazir. So, since there's such a chiddush by a Nazir, says the Gemara, maybe I would think, just like there's a chiddush that you can't obligate yourself in the karban chatas of a Nazir, so too you're not over Bal Ta'acher. So the Gemara says, what are you talking about? There are many types of karbanos you can't be machayiv yourself in, even though you're over on Bal Ta'acher, if you delay them. like every single carbon chatas in the world. A person can't say, I obligate myself to bring a carbon chatas. Pal, you're going to have to sin to bring a carbon chatas. You're too good of a guy to bring the carbon. You can't make a neder. I take upon myself a chi of carbon chatas. Hare chatas chelev, bringing a carbon chatas for eating chelev, she'ein matfisa beneder, that you can obligate yourself with a neder, va'over b'bal ta'acher, and still you're over b'bal ta'acher if you don't bring it. So don't say, well, carbon Nazir has a chidush that it's not matfis v'neder, so maybe you're not over b'al ta'acher. There are many karbanos that you're not matfis v'neder. Says the Ran, Ma'u detema yilavication the Nedarim. I would have thought, if not for the hekish, to lay matfis la l'chatas nazir b'neder. Tequila, there's a leniency. She'enei yachalat pisa b'neder. You can't be matfis in a neder. Shem amar chatas nazir alay. If somebody says, I take upon myself a chatas of a nazir, v'hu einay nazir. If he's not a nazir, lo yamar klum. What he said is nothing. V'hol v'kila, since it's lenient, I would have thought, lo ylikum alei b'bal ta'acher. You would not be violating b'al ta'acher. To which the Gemara asks, Parchinan, says around second wide line, Hare chatas chelev, koloimar, kol hachatois. All chatois, which are really called chatas chelev, the hachi mikri kulu chatas chelev, they're all called chatas chelev. Isbahu hachkula, they have that leniency. Va'afilu hachi, nevertheless, koi alayo b'bal ta'acher, they would still be chayiv in b'al ta'acher, ve'keshalom li, what do I need the hekish for? So the Gemara says a different chidush. Elamai chidusha, sakadaita chamina, I would have thought, ho ve'im amar harini nazar, since if a guy says harini nazar, but a nazar can't have any grape products. He can't have grape chartzan, grape seed, zug, grape skin, yayin. I don't know if he could have those Jolly Rancher, the grape candies. That probably he could have, I'm not sure. He can't have grape juice. So let's say he says, I'm only not going to have one type of grape product. I'm only not going to have grape seed. So Allah says, even though he's only explicitly mentioning one type of grape product, he becomes a nazir for everything. I would have thought, since if he would say, I'm a nazir. And even from grape seed, have a nazir, he becomes a nazir for everything. I would say, loy laver alei mishum bal ta'acher. He should not be violating bal ta'acher. Because since the whole concept of nazirus is a chidush, maybe you're not violating bal ta'acher. Loy laver bal ta'acher. Kamash malon, you're over bal ta'acher. So the Gemara has two questions. Question number one is, hanich l'man da'amar ki nazir men chartzen have a nazir kol. This fits in and is all in good according to the Manda Amar that when you take Nazirus from grapeseed, you become a Nazir for everything. Elo the Reb Shimon the Amar a Nazir ad sheyazir mikulim, but according to Reb Shimon who says you're not a Nazir until you take upon yourself Nazirus for everything. Mai ikalamema. What are you going to say? Then there is no chiddush by Nazirus. Furthermore, this whole argument is counterintuitive. Since Nazirus has a chumrah that if you take upon yourself an isser from one element of nazirus, you're a nazir for everything. So I would think you should be lenient and you're not over bal ta'acher. That's a kula. Why? Because nazirus has a chumrah, would you think you should be mekel and not be over bal ta'acher? That's counterintuitive. If nazirus has a chumrah, that even if you take upon yourself one thing, you're a nazir for everything, then certainly you should be over bal ta'acher. V'oid, hai chidush l'chumrahu. The chidush is a chumrah. Says the Ran, afilu min ha'chartzan have nazir chol l'chol din in zis, v'oid chidush l'chumrahu. V'hechi maisi minei kula, how could you derive a kula, d'loi leikum bal ta'acher, that you would not be violating bal ta'acher? And this is where we're going to hold, this is where we're going to be up to. So we're up to Dalet Amud Aleph, and then the next Daf Hashavua will be next Thursday night, Dalet Amud Beis, and we'll be on track. So we pushed it a little bit in the beginning. We did Daf Beis and Gimel last week, so we did 2 blot last week. And this week we did an Amud, and next week we do an Amud, and we'll be on schedule. Next Thursday night will be Daf Dalet Amud Beis. Have a great week. Thanks for joining. Shkayach. Kol tov.